Hello, I'm Jim Al-Khalili. I'm a physicist, author and broadcaster, and I'm very excited to be here at the Glasgow Science Centre for A Question of Science 2014. I got interested in science, I guess, in my early teens, and along with a lot of other people, it's because you have an inspirational teacher. So I had a very good physics teacher, and I fell in love with physics. And from then on, from the age of about 13 or 14, that's all I wanted to do. I don't think I ever had an ambition to become a science communicator. I just found that I enjoyed explaining. And the explaining spread beyond just teaching my students at university. It's explaining to anyone who'd care to listen. And that's how science communication should be. You're just enthusiastic about trying to get across your enthusiasm for something you love. I am privileged enough to have two professorships at Surrey, Professor of Physics and Professor of Public Engagement in Science. What that means is that my university, University of Surrey, allows me to spend half of my time promoting science, doing outreach to schools, being a public scientist. And so this chair essentially gives me freedom to go and do my public engagement activities without the university checking up on me and finding out what I'm doing. It's part of my role there. There are many reasons why public engagement in science is so vital, particularly these days. Very often people say, oh, it's to inspire the next generation of scientists and engineers, and of course that is vitally important. We still have a shortfall of scientists, and particularly engineers in this country. But it's also because the public deserves to be better informed about science. After all, most of us scientists spend public money. The public has a right to know what we're doing with that money. But for me, it's simply a matter of, if I discover something new, something fascinating about how the world of the universe works, why would I want to keep it to myself? I want to tell everyone about it. And I think everyone has that inherent fascination with the nature and the world around us. So it's a case of trying to promote science and put it at the heart of popular culture, the same as music and art and sport and everything else. I think for many people, particularly the young, science centres may well be their only encounter with the excitement, the thrill of science. Yes, we have documentaries on TV now, and there are websites and other multimedia resources, but the school trips to science centres are very often those events that people remember for the rest of their lives, and that's what triggers this love for science. And the fact that science centres can attract people in their millions, I think, shows that they are probably the most powerful means of getting that excitement across. I think we live in a technological world. The 21st century, we wouldn't last very long if we didn't have an understanding of certain areas of science. The next generation, the children growing up now, will be tomorrow's scientists and engineers, and they are going to have to solve problems like climate change and energy and food and water shortage and developing the technology, the technological tools that make our lives easier, health and medicine. So if we don't encourage them to get involved and be enthusiastic and passionate about STEM subjects, then the world is doomed. I was involved with on a committee for the Royal Society looking at science and maths education from the age of 5 all the way to the age of 18, 19. And one of the things we had stressed was that there need to be specialist science teachers at primary level. That you can't expect, it's unfair to expect primary school teachers that are generalists to be able to infuse science and teach it to the correct level for primary schools. And so even if there are specialist teachers that are shared amongst schools, we have to make sure that there are those specialists who are enthusiastic themselves about science, because that's the only way they're going to infuse young children. I think there's no doubt that stories like the discovery of the Higgs boson, or stories in astronomy, or the great breakthroughs in medicine, that are reported more and more now in the news, and not just as an aside, but part of what we regard as important in the news today, must be playing a tremendously important role in bringing science into the centre of public conversation. People are much less afraid or suspicious of science because it's now part of our general dialogue in society. I think when it comes to digital communications, there are many avenues being pursued now, and we still don't even know how they're going to influence the next generation. It's happening so fast, whether it's blogging, whether it's YouTube, whether it's Twitter. I know, for example, I have a reasonably large Twitter following, but those who follow me tend to follow me because they want to know something about my interests. People like Brian Cox has 1.5 million Twitter followers. It's showing that scientists are now elevated within popular culture alongside other media superstars that the young might look up to as role models. It's not just footballers and pop stars now, it's scientists, and that's great. What is the most exciting thing in science? Wow. Well, in my area of physics and astronomy, there are things we're trying to understand the nature of the universe, what happened before the Big Bang, are there parallel universes? We're looking for the building blocks of matter. Are there other particles we need to discover to explain mysteries like what is dark matter and dark energy? Big mysteries in astronomy. In medicine, there are major advances in genetics and genetic engineering. There are wonderful things going on in nanotechnology. Wherever I look now, I think this is a fantastically exciting time to get involved in science.